Hi, welcome back to the Trial by JenniFIRE podcast series and happy holidays. I am really excited to host this Thanksgiving Day special and thank you so much for joining me. And I wanted to start off by just kind of reflecting back on the past almost 6 months now since I've started Trial by JenniFIRE and share a little bit about my story because I've had mostly, well, all guests on every other episode of this podcast series. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the birth of the series and what's behind Trial by JenniFIRE, answer a few listener questions, and talk a little bit about the wealth planner that is launching on Black Friday tomorrow. So I will start out by just telling the audience a little bit about myself and answering the question that I ask all of my guests. And so I'm 32. I live in Austin. I'm joining my listeners today from Alma, Michigan. I'm here visiting my boyfriend's parents and just drove up from Indiana and had a lovely time. I am studying a Master of Science in Business Analytics, and I started school as a non-traditional student about 6 months into getting sober back in 2020 was when I started my first semester at ACC when I was really serious about getting my degree. For those of you who don't live in Austin, Texas, ACC is our Austin Community College, and I knew I wanted to study business administration. I knew the versatility with that degree was going to be very applicable to any career field that I chose to specialize in. And at the time, I wanted to pursue a degree in law. Um, and while I still am passionate about the law and want to go to law school, I don't necessarily see myself practicing law anymore. And, I think after working in law firms for a few years, I discovered that there are really long hours. And for someone who um, I think has a history of mental health challenges. I think that going in a career field where there is a lot of mental health challenges maybe wasn't the best suited profession for me. And I do think the law is very interesting. But currently, I decided to go for a STEM degree, and I have really enjoyed this degree. I'm at St. Edward's University, which is my alma mater, and where I finished my bachelor's degree in May of this year, 2023. And I have had a wonderful experience there. I love the intimacy and the small class sizes, as well as just the real world experience that the professors bring to the classroom. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about continuing this degree plan I'm on, and I feel like it is a really great ROI for a graduate degree investment, as well as learning coding languages like Python. And I'm really enjoying a course I'm taking right now, which is data summarization and visualization. With Dr. Park is our professor's name, and we're working with Power BI and Tableau. And so I love creating visualizations that clarify large sets of data. And so, yeah, I feel like I've been able to bring a lot of that forward into this first launch of my wealth planner. And so I'm excited to share a little bit about that later in the episode. And I'll kind of pivot because I ask all of my guests this question, and I'm always really curious to know what the conversation was around personal finance growing up. And I'll share why I asked that question first. And, I think that there's so much that can be said for our relationship with money as an individual. And I think that money and our relationship with personal finance is more taboo than love or sex or any other topic, really. And so I'm so curious to know, how did your parents talk to you about money? Did they, and what did your relationship with that look like growing up? And so for me, I remember seeing things at the store, and um like there was a canopy bed at Bed Bath and Beyond one time, and I fell in love with it, and it was a pretty high ticket item at the time. And my mom, she is a real estate instructor here in Austin, Texas, and has been with Champion School of Real Estate for the past 10 years or so, and selling real estate here in Austin for the past 30. And so most of my life, and living on a real estate commission as an only child, and her mother joined us as well in raising me. Things were great sometimes. I would say I was very fortunate and grateful to have the things that I did. I went to a private school, and was very grateful that I had a wonderful education growing up. But there were a lot of things that I wanted that we couldn't afford. And when things were good, they were great. And when they were not so great, they were really tight financially. And so I started to become aware of that at probably around the age of reason. And so that was probably like 8 or 9 years old. And I think my personality type and disposition leans more towards impulsivity. And so a big theme throughout the course of my lifetime in adulthood has been cultivating and learning discipline um, to kind of have this idea of delayed gratification, and looking into the years to come, I have practiced things like meditation and other things that have allowed me that pause between the first thought and the action. And hopefully there's a second thought that kind of questions that first thought. And so one of the things I love about personal finance is um, this concept that I learned about in school, which is the time value of money. And I was so fascinated by that and compound interest, and learning more about these concepts and how to build wealth in a sustainable way, and have financial security in a way that I don't think people of my disposition or temperament are inclined to have. And so I figure if I just know a little bit more than others, I can share that. And so part of why I started Trial by JenniFIRE is a way to offer financial literacy education, and more money transparency, especially when it comes to salary negotiation. And FIRE itself is an acronym that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And so it also happens to be the last four letters of my first name. And so trial by fire is also this phrase that was used in medieval times when they would put people on trial, and they would have them walk on hot coals, or burn them at stake, and if certain outcomes resulted, then they were considered innocent or guilty. And so today we use it in terms of overcoming a challenge or a hurdle. Trial by fire is kind of a trial and error, if you will. And so that's where the name Trial by JenniFIRE came from. And I feel super grateful to be where I am today, having, looking back on the past 6 months or so, and just how far things have come, and how things have grown. And I feel really grateful to have an audience that continues to grow as well. And speaking of, I requested that different people send in questions to ask. And so I wanted to read a few of those. while we are recording. So this comes in from a listener, and this person says, what bank is currently offering the best HYSA rates? So high yield savings account rates. And what does that look like in practical application? Will I be paid out monthly? If I invest $1,000, how much interest will I make in a month? Great question. So first I'll just say, a high yield savings account is a great way to grow liquid assets, so cash or cash equivalents. It's ideal for things like an emergency fund. I'll preface this by saying this is not financial advice. I do want to share that I have found that right now, because the federal funds rate has been increased, I think like 11 times since 2020, we are seeing some really, really good yields on these high yield savings accounts and money markets accounts and CDs as well. And so I went ahead and looked up. I like Forbes and Fortune, so I'm on Fortune.com, and it says here there is an account with Popular Direct for 5.4%. Now, I want to just mention that each of these accounts are going to have different terms. So they're going to have different minimums. They're going to have different withdrawal or transfer terms, as well as, it's also important to consider that the APY is going to vary. It's not a fixed rate. So while 5.4% is the APY, over the course of the year, most of these accounts do compound monthly. And so you can just calculate that by dividing the yield rate by 12 and then multiplying that figure by the account balance, depending on when the cycle ends, and that interest compounds if it's on a monthly compounding. If it's on a monthly compounding term. As far as the varying interest rate, again, it will change over the course of a year. But if you have $1,000 and you're looking at an account that has 5.4%, now I'm not certain of what the terms are for this particular account. Obviously, there are a lot of important things to consider, and I would highly recommend reading those terms, especially because, I think it's important to think about an account that historically has had a pretty high yield over the course of varying interest rates. And so you'll see these higher interest rates with different types of accounts, specifically ones that aren't brick and mortar, that are online, like SoFi and Ally are two institutions that I think are pretty reputable and have a tendency to carry a pretty high yield regardless of the federal funds rate or what the economy is doing as a whole. And so I think it would be really sad to see something fluctuate when interest rates fluctuate, and then needing to transfer those funds to a different account to get the best APY. And then that interest will start over. And so, you don't want to lose the compounding effect if it's month to month over the course of a year by pulling those funds out. And so, but just to kind of give you the top three that are right here, My Banking Direct is coming in number 2. There's a $500 minimum and a 5.35 APY, and another 5.35% APY with a $5,000 minimum, which would not obviously be applicable to this situation the questions asked if I invest $1,000. So you would need at least 5,000 to open an account with Brio Direct. And I will post this link in the description. So go ahead and check it out. This was updated in November of 2023. So this is current. I believe it was on the 20th. So that was Monday. And yeah, I think that in practical application, you should see the interest growing if it is on a monthly compounding cycle over the course of a year at the end of each statement cycle. Let's go to another question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how amazing is Kirk Zajac? I'm going to have to go with a 7.5. We'll see how that might increase, Kirk, with maybe you coming on the podcast. So fingers crossed we'll get you in 2024. For now, we're keeping it at a 7.5. Hopefully that's incentivizing. Okay, so I want to just kind of show you a few different elements of the Trial by JenniFIRE 2024 Wealth Planner. I want to keep this episode short and sweet because I know we are all joining our families during this holiday season, and I will be coming out with a full-length training video on how to use the Wealth Planner in much greater detail. But for now, I just want to share a few different pieces of the Wealth Planner that I think are incredibly cool. And I hope that it will help you guys keep in mind the Wealth Planner when you're thinking of your family and friends this holiday season. So as you can see here, we're going to start with the basics. I've put together instructions and you will just read these first. But these are just photos of each and every page with pretty detailed instructions and pretty much like exact copy and paste photos. So we're going to just start with the basics, but you'll go ahead and choose your income tax filing status, what your annual income is, gross, and any pre-tax paycheck deductions such as setting aside money for a 401k or an HSA, and deduct those here in the white cells. So just so you know, all of the white cells are cells that you will actually fill in. The rest are already calculated for you. It'll give you a monthly breakdown, and you can choose the month that you start in here. I have this formulated so it just carries over the take-home pay after, you deduct the FICA tax liability and the state tax liability, as well as a standardized deduction and the annual federal tax by tax bracket. So all of that is completely automated for you. But you can go ahead and fill this in, like if you work a W-2 type job, but you also have a side hustle, and so you're anticipating more take-home pay than what your main income will provide. And so, you can go here on your monthly spending plan and choose what bills you have or expenses you want to consider. And then you will just fill out whatever it is that you want to budget for. And over here, you'll have your assets. There are instructions, and it talks a little bit about education around different types of assets. So here are your tax advantaged accounts. You can choose what kind of an account it is, and I tried to be sure to include all of them so that you have a wide variety so that everybody can use this, and it's something that is applicable no matter what your asset portfolio or liability portfolio looks like. And you can put your monthly goal of contributions in for each type of account. And these accounts are going to carry over into all of the different sheets. Same with liabilities. And you can categorize your liabilities or your debt based on the high, medium, or low priority, and it will total up here. And it carries over to each and every page. So then you'll go over to your net worth. And net worth is great because you can enter all of your assets. These will carry over from the Start with the Basics page. So, whatever you name your accounts, here's your Bank of America. It will carry over here along with the yield or the interest rate, depending on whether it's an asset or a liability. You can also say, okay, this current month is November, and it will automatically look at the November column and what your net worth is based on deducting your liabilities from your asset on the balances that month. You can see your net worth here as well as here, and you've got a chart that will kind of show your progress over the course of the year. For those real estate investment portfolio holders, I wanted to make sure that we included a way to track that as well. And so the current month, again, we'll put November. You can go ahead and list each of your real estate investments, what the market value is. And if you don't know the market value, you can always talk to a licensed realtor to get an estimated market value of your home. And then any financing or loan that is outstanding, deducting the loan amount from the market value, you'll be able to determine the equity. And the reason why I did this was to hopefully factor in those figures into your financial independence early retirement number. So as you can see here on the FIRE tab, you've got a pretty awesome chart of what the next 60 years are going to look like. All of these are estimates, and they're based on these conditions that you can enter here, based on a 3% income increase, an average rate of return. Historically, the S&P 500 has averaged over the course of a working lifetime about 11%. However, in recent years, it's looking closer to 8 or 9%. And so, again, these are very conservative numbers. The inflation rate is anywhere from 3 to 4% over the course of a working lifetime. And then we have been hearing from experts that a safe withdrawal rate into retirement is 4%. Just recently, again, I think it was lower prior to just the past few months. You will get a progress bar of how close you are to your FIRE number, and based on whether or not you have real estate equity considered, you've got the years to your FIRE date, your projected FIRE year, and the number as well as your annual or monthly spend that you can take out over the course of your retirement. This is essentially saying your money is making enough money to grow on for that period of time if you safely withdraw 4% or whatever figure you want to enter here each year. So then you'll go into each month, and you can kind of enter whatever your actual expenses are in comparison to your goals, and document any income, savings and investing. There's a section for matching, and you have these progress bars and monthly breakdown again. The annual review is one of my favorites. So this is a pretty comprehensive look at what your year is looking like. So it carries over the current month. You're going to be seeing average for each category, each expense per month relative to the goal. And this is also a great place to put in extra planned or unplanned expenses, such as holiday spending or maybe a unexpected large purchase. You can track your monthly income, and really, there's not a lot of white cells to enter information into. All of this is going to be transferred and compiled from each and every sheet. And so, yeah, I will just create a shameless shout out that this will be 15% off for the next 24 hours up until Black Friday. And then it will be full price, $29.95. You can get it via the link in the description or in my Instagram bio on my Stan store. And it is a digital download. So you can just download it and it will be yours. And you can enter your data. It takes maybe 10 minutes to enter all of the data that you need to. And it can really help kind of streamline and create a clear focus on what your financial goals are, not just for the month, not just for the year, but for like the next few decades. And when you can retire, it's tangibly calculating, a realistic estimated date of early retirement or reaching this place of being work optional. I was stunned when I found out that this data can be calculated. And while they are all estimates, this is backed by, financial planning and experts who have done this research to get these figures available to people. And I wanted to make it accessible for people to utilize these tools without having to do all the math. And so I hope that you will consider this wealth planner as a great gift to anyone who is serious about becoming more financially stable and securing their future and their financial freedom this coming year and for years to come. And I hope that you all will tune in next Wednesday at 10 a.m. back to our usual date and time. I will be having guest Austin Muth, who is a incredible fitness and nutrition trainer and coach, and he is going to be talking about how to build muscle and burn calories from this Thanksgiving meal, but also to really look and feel your best self in the new year, and doing so on a fire budget. And so please join me next week at 10 a.m. Central Time, and I'll see you all then.